In the shadow of Germany's retreat, a small tank destroyer earned a deadly reputation. It was called the Jagdpanzer 38, but troops nicknamed it the Hetzer. By the end of its brief career, 8 of every 10 crews who fought in it were gone. Why did such a compact machine become a death trap for its own men? You picture a low silhouette hiding among trees. Inside are 4 men, commander, driver, gunner, and loader, pressed shoulder to shoulder in a narrow steel shell. The Hetzer used the chassis of a captured Czech 38 tank. It measured just over 20 feet long and less than 7 feet high and weighed around 16 tons. It carried sloping armour 8 to 60 millimeters thick and a 75 millimeter Park 39L 48 gun with a remote-controlled machine gun. This firepower could knock out most Allied tanks, but its crew lived in a cramped, poorly ventilated compartment where even turning your head was difficult. Production began in spring 1944, when Germany needed a cheap tank killer after air raids destroyed factories. By May 1945, some 2,800 were built, making the Hetzer one of the most numerous German tank destroyers. It was cheap and easy to assemble, but designed for ambushes rather than head-on clashes. Crews hid behind hills, trees and buildings, waiting for Soviet or American tanks to approach. This hit-and-run tactic could save the vehicle, but often doomed the men inside. Life on board was hot and foul. A 160-horsepower Praga gasoline engine sat next to the fighting compartment, heating the steel walls and pushing fumes inside. The smells of oil, leather and gunpowder mixed with the earthy scent of wet soil from outside. The gun appeared through a narrow slit. The driver saw the battlefield through a tiny periscope. Ammunition, around 40 shells and over 1,000 rounds for the machine gun, was stored under their feet, turning any penetration into a storm of fragments. Imagine the sound when an artillery shell exploded nearby. A dull thud, a screech of metal, then burning debris flying through the cabin. Thin side armour. The Hetzer's sides were barely 30 millimeters thick, thinner than a soldier's helmet. A hit from the side ignited fuel and ammunition. The crew could not escape in time. The driver had to slide his seat back, twist open a hatch and crawl through a narrow passage, while the loader was entangled in belts of ammunition. Casualties were appalling. For every 10 men who started a campaign in a Hetzer, only 2 returned. The rest were killed, captured or went missing. That statistic became a grim measure of efficiency. Why did commanders keep using the Hetzer despite this death rate? Because the vehicle could be built quickly and still destroy enemy tanks at ranges up to a mile. Its low profile and sloped armour made it almost invisible on broken ground, and its gun could penetrate T-34 and M4 tanks with the first shot. Crews clung to the belief that a well-planned ambush would give them a chance to survive, even if the vehicle itself offered little protection. Ambush successes. On the Eastern Front in the summer of 1944, companies of Jagdpanzer 38 from Panzerjägerabteilung 731 reported destroying 20 enemy tanks without any losses. They chose positions along forest roads and riverbanks, firing once and then moving. Often, the enemy never located them. Yet these successes did not mean safety. Once their positions were discovered, they were bombarded by artillery and attacked by aircraft. After each battle, mechanics found fragments lodged in the armour, burned uniforms and blackened skin told the rest of the story. Mechanical drawbacks. The Hetzer had only one hatch for entry and exit. The commander sat on the right side near the machine gun, supervising the gunner and loader. The driver was protected by a thin armoured plate and could barely see the road. When the gun fired, the recoil rocked the hull backwards. On a slope, the vehicle could easily tip over. The weight was low enough to be unstable in rough terrain, yet high enough to limit agility in forests. Heat from the exhaust radiated into the cabin, forcing crews to remove their helmets for relief. How did these soldiers endure constant danger? Because in war, you take any chance to stop a column of enemy armour, even if your own armour is thin. Crews learned to work under inhuman conditions, sleeping on ammunition boxes, eating cold rations, cleaning the gun by candlelight. They still felt pride in their hunter, believing it could stalk and strike before anyone knew it was there. Tactical evolution. By late 1944, the Hetzer appeared in urban battles, such as in Warsaw and Budapest. The vehicle's vulnerabilities were stark there. Narrow streets, limited movement, high buildings offered positions for anti-tank rifles. Artillery shells easily punched through the thin roof. In the ruins of Warsaw, several Hetzers were knocked out by shots from attics. Commanders tried to cover them with infantry, but street fighting favoured the defenders. On open ground, however, in Hungarian and Moravian fields, the Hetzer continued to score kills against older Soviet light tanks. Southern theatres. Small numbers went to Italy, defending mountain passes of the Apennines. There, they met American Shermans and British Churchills. Winding mountain roads made manoeuvring difficult, but firing downhill gave them an advantage. However, Allied guns with high elevation could penetrate the thin roof, reminding the crews that nowhere was safe, comparison to other vehicles. Unlike the Stu G3, which had more space and 2 exits, the Hetzer was so cramped that the commander could not easily turn toward the gunner. The Marder series, built on the same chassis, had an open fighting compartment, allowing crews to jump out if hit. In the Hetzer, the closed casemate designed to protect against shrapnel became a coffin when penetrated. Even the heavy Tiger tank had escape hatches. The Jagdpanzer 38 had only one, which could jam if struck by fragments. Why did Germany continue producing these machines if they were so dangerous to their crews? Because the alternative was worse. Without tank destroyers, infantry would be overrun by enemy armour. The Hetzer was the only vehicle damaged Czech factories could build. Its hull was welded from prefabricated plates. Its engine was taken from older tanks. Many assembly workers were untrained. This was resource war, a choice between rapid production and crew safety. Human stories. One of the few surviving commanders recalled his hands shaking after a battle, his clothing soaked with sweat and oil. He spoke of a side hit. Flames erupted instantly, and he opened the hatch, escaping with the loader while the driver was wedged between the seat and bulkhead. Such memories show that their sacrifice is not forgotten. Survivors felt time slow down as they fled a burning hull, the smell of burning fuel, the screams of wounded comrades, the cold earth beneath them. These sensations remained with them forever. Training units. Despite the fatality rate, the Hetzer was used to train new crews. Schools in Prague and Munich received dozens of them to teach ambush tactics. Cadets learned the inner layout, practiced changing the barrel in 30 seconds, and trained to spot targets through periscopes. Instructors taught them how to angle the armour to deflect incoming rounds. These lessons improved survival odds, but the statistics remained cruel: losses and aftermath. In April 1945, records listed roughly 489 operational Hetzers on the Eastern Front, 79 in the West and 64 in Italy. Many others were destroyed beyond repair. After the war, the Swiss Army bought around 160 Hetzers, renaming them G-13S, and Czechoslovakia kept roughly 249 in storage. Some served into the 1960s as training vehicles. Their continued existence reminded historians of the hundreds of crews who died inside them. What goes through a man's mind when he sits in a metal box, knowing that 8 of 10 of his comrades will not return? Perhaps the same as a bomber pilot who knows the odds. He trusts skill and luck, hoping his crew will see another dawn. Yet every time the engine started and the Hetzer rolled out of cover, his heart skipped a beat. Legacy and lessons. The Hetzer marked a turning point in armoured warfare. The concept of a small, cheap, easily concealed tank destroyer inspired post-war designers. Modern infantry fighting vehicles and light anti-tank platforms owe their sloping armour and compact profiles to this idea. But the lessons of crew deaths were also learned. Modern vehicles have multiple hatches, fire suppression systems, and better ergonomics. The story of the Hetzer shows that the balance between effectiveness and survival determines soldiers' fates. Today, you can see a Jagdpanzer 38 in museums, painted, restored, its gun inert and hatches closed. Visitors take photos, children tap on its armour, unaware of the lives lost inside. It stands as a monument to harsh times and a warning. Every war machine carries a human cost. Let the memory of those who did not return from this cramped steel capsule remind us that war tolerates no romance and always demands sacrifice. This video is intended solely for educational and documentary purposes. It contains no ideology or propaganda.